action.
Hey friends, Tori here again with some more of Tori's tips. Super exciting stuff. We have a nice spooky example today where we're going to be talking about how we're using our acrylic paint and blending the paint versus layering the paint. I feel like a lot of times our primary thought is to put the thing first, being the cat, and then paint around the cat, which would be very difficult. The easiest thing to do, especially with acrylic paint, because it dries very quickly. So what we like to do in an instance like this is to layer. So what that means is doing our background first, letting that dry, and then layering on top all the goodies, which include the fence too. Spider web, spider, all that good stuff. I'm gonna show us a little example here because if the thought is to do this first, I'm going to show you kind of how difficult it is to kind of paint around something like that. We also have a little bit of blending in our background, which we'll go over today as well. So if we're taking a look at our cat here, say that I painted this first, and then I want to paint my background around it. Oof, already. So I would have to be super particular going around all the edges, trying not to paint over my cat. But there's also blending in the background, so how can I do that while I'm trying to avoid my cat here in the middle? I never want to say impossible, but oh no, look. Happy accident, because my cat wasn't even completely dry. So I ended up picking up some black paint, and it's kind of a hot mess. Now, for your background, typically what you're going to be using is a flat brush. A flat brush is going to spread out the paint nice and smooth, nice and easy. And a flat brush is typically what you're going to be using, at least in our studio, to blend your colors. So for instance, if I want to start with my sun, I might pick up some yellow. I'm always doing a nice little kind of scrape it and flip it over on my brush. And then I'm going to use the flat side of this brush. I'm not going to use the tip of this brush to draw a circle. I'm going to use the flat side of my brush, twist it around in my hand so the flat side never leaves until it's all filled in. All right, so I can go out a little bit further. Of course, the harder I press, the more paint comes out. My brush is nice and new, so it's kind of keeping its width there. All right. Now around my yellow sun, I have kind of a white ring. Now what I might do is step down to a smaller brush and just pick up some white. Now the trick to blending is only wet paint blends. I'm gonna say that again, only wet paint blends. If this dries, I walk away and do something else and I come back, I can no longer blend this. Then I'll just be layering it because it'll be dry. So while this is wet, and you can tell if it's wet because it's still a little bit shiny, I can go with my white paint around the outside. And blending also is not going to happen in your first brush stroke. It takes a couple times, it takes some effort. Your first brush stroke is never your last. Now I'm not quite using a small enough brush for this. Alternatively, I'm just going to add a ton of white to lighten up this yellow. And then I can darken up the center. So cleaning off all my white. Going back into my yellow. And doing that on the inside. So now I'm blending my dark with my light. Using the flat side of my brush still, kind of in a sweeping motion. I want to keep it circular. If there's too much paint on my brush, because now my yellow is taking over my white, wipe it off the brush. Now all I need to do is move around this existing paint. So my brush is clean. I'm gonna go around in a circle, staying on that flat side. Can wipe off any excess paint. All right, now I have a darker inside yellow and a lighter outside yellow. I wanna clean off my brush to move on to my next color, where we have orange. Now it's gonna be a lighter orange closer to my sun and a darker orange moving away from my sun. So what I can do is pick up my orange, the nice clean dry flat brush. I'm gonna go around my sun. I'm gonna keep a couple fingers of no paint between my yellow and my orange. Now I want my orange to be dark out here, so I'll continue doing that. I'm moving kind of quickly because acrylic paint dries quickly. And while I'm out here working on the outside of this ring, my inner ring is starting to dry. So then I'll just wipe off some of that orange. I'm gonna go right into some white paint. I'm gonna paint here in the white space of an unpainted canvas. But the edge of my brush is touching the orange paint. And as I swirl and swirl, the white is blending with the orange just on this inner ring, and I'm bringing it closer to my sun. I also don't need to press very hard. A lot of people like to pound that brush into the canvas. Not necessary. You can be kind of delicate about it. Going all the way up to my sun. No white canvas is showing. And then blending a little more with my orange. Whoa. Now I've got a nice little fade. Imagine trying to do that behind your cat. Yikes. It'll be much easier to wait for this to dry, or better yet, if I'm at home, I know I have a hairdryer. That is exactly what we use here in the studio. And you can always use a hairdryer to kind of speed up the process. Now, you can tell your painting is wet if it's still a little bit shiny. So you can do as long as you need to in front of the hairdryer to get it dry. You can do my favorite thing is just lift it up and shake it until it's dry. But yeah, I'd wait for that to dry and then pop that cat on there. And we're probably gonna record this again because it was really sloppy. Bye.